thing that really sparked the idea for Smart Building Bootcamp for me was having to work on a whole bunch of smart buildings technology kind of projects where it was very difficult for the two sides of the equation to understand the language that they were saying. The IT folks were coming at it from a very technologically driven point of view around apps, platforms, protocols, and the buildings folks were really struggling to understand what they were talking about and how it was relevant to the systems that they were thinking about as part of base build. And then on the other side, the IT folks didn't really understand what the buildings crew were really talking about. They didn't understand the rules or the way in which the applications or even some of the systems were put together for some of the base build things like elevators, access control, or even some of the things that the building management system takes care of. It was a real clash of culture. And that's why I hope with Smart Building Bootcamp, we're going to be able to bridge that gap. The fact that it's organised into some tracks that help you understand physical systems, if that's something you need to brush up on, or perhaps on the digital side, if that wasn't included as part of your formal education. I'm hoping it's the place where we're able to bring the different sides of industry together. The thing I think that makes me so excited about this is that I genuinely think it's going to change the conversation. What's been really difficult over the past few years to get some of these projects across the line is just having that common understanding and language. And with people completing training such as this, I hope it's going to change and that we're going to be able to push the barrier even further on what's capable of our buildings. My favourite building that I've ever worked on, and I'm going to call it my baby, is probably the dock in Dublin. It was 2016, so we didn't have a lot of the kind of fancy IoT technologies that exist today, and so many of the things that we did were a real world first, building a part of an IoT platform so that we could get all of those disparate systems to talk to one another, building out a kind of first of its kind cultural experience with questions that the app would make you for the personality of the building that we'd designed to be a DJ, and lots of different kind of gesture control systems that made the interaction with dealing with the building very, very different to the other projects that I've seen out there. You know, the most exciting technology that I see in smart buildings today, I don't think is one particular technology. And I think this is going to sound like a bit of a cop-out answer. It's the way that it comes together that is so exciting. Like knowing from a CO2 sensor that the levels are building up in a room and that I've probably under budget for my energy today because it's a net zero building, and then trying to get that intelligence to balance between comfort of a person and what's good for the planet. It's that excites me. But if you're really going to force me to pick one, I would say it's probably HVAC analytics or heating, ventilation and air conditioning. We have got so much data within the building management system, which is the computer in the basement that controls everything that your aircon and other energy using systems have got. And if we just applied a bit of intelligence to it, it would be a really simple, easy win towards net zero. The biggest challenge for implementing smart buildings has got to be that of education. For built environment professionals, they've never had to study how you get a mobile app to work, what is the Internet of Things, and all of those things I think just come together and mean that in order to deliver that project, it's just a bit too big and scary, which is why not many people actually follow through and push their building all the way to being a smart one. So with training like this, I think we're going to be able to solve it. I think for me, the biggest misconception about smart buildings that's out there in the industry is that it's just extra cost. I think that means they've not probably looked at the business case properly. These technologies are able to look at things to do with health and well-being, making your space work harder, reducing your energy so you can get at least somewhere towards net zero, or even being the thing that attracts some of the best tenants and makes your building more valuable. Yes, it comes as a premium because you've never done that before, but the payback can be so much higher than what we're seeing most folks thinking about today. My prediction for smart buildings over the next decade is that we're going to get really serious about using smart technologies to help our buildings become net zero. Today, most commercial buildings run at about 160 kilowatt hours per metre square. But if we've got any chance at getting down to net zero, that number is something more like 55. And given that HVAC takes 40% of our energy, plug load 55% and lighting at 5%, it's going to be very difficult to design a space where we're not sat in the dark or freezing or sweltering or having to come with our devices that are pre-charged and ready to go, which doesn't really solve the problem, it just moves it to somewhere else. But by using the right demand-driven analytics or even some of the HVAC analytics that gets into the weeds of the engineering of the system, we're going to be able to get our existing buildings to be able to do net zero, and that really excites me.